Hi, and welcome to Reddit Confessions. What you're about to hear happened 3 nights ago, and I still haven't slept since. There was a small moment, maybe 2 seconds long, that changed everything. No yelling, no cheating caught in the act, no hotel receipts or lipstick-stained collars. Just one small buzz across a wooden dining table, and a smile that didn't belong to me. It was supposed to be quiet, peaceful. I had just refilled her wine and sat back down, trying not to overthink the silence. I remember cutting into my chicken, looking up, and there it was. That grin, the kind that curls slowly, secretively, the kind I hadn't seen directed at me in years. She wasn't smiling at the food. She was smiling at her phone. Her eyes never met mine. Not once. Just screen, giggle, sip, buzz, tap, giggle, buzz. And it wasn't like I didn't notice. I just didn't want to believe what I already knew. But you don't smile like that at a work email. You don't text that fast unless your heart is racing. And you don't get a second glass of wine during dinner with your husband while smiling at your phone, unless someone else is at the table, even if they're invisible. Who's making you laugh like that? I asked. Calm. Soft. Too soft. She blinked, paused, then flipped the phone face down. No one, she said, and stabbed her pasta like it was my question that offended her, not her behavior. Buzz. Screen lit up again, but this time, I caught the name. Canyon. What kind of name is Canyon? Before I could ask, she excused herself, took her phone with her into the hallway. I heard muffled laughing, a squeal, then silence. I sat there, staring at the pasta I made from scratch. Her plate was barely touched. Mine had gone cold. That's when I made a decision. I pulled out my phone, walked into the living room, and called her number. And right there, right in the middle of our hallway, I watched her name light up on the screen as her thumb moved to silence it. Her face dropped. She realized. She had just been caught texting him while standing in front of me. She didn't say a word, just stared at me like she wasn't sure if this was real. I didn't scream. I didn't accuse. I didn't cry. I just said one sentence. And it made her choke on pasta, not even in her mouth yet. But that part, that reaction, what I said. She stood there, frozen in the hallway like a dropped marionette, her hand still on the phone screen that no longer lit up. My call had ended, but her reaction had just begun. I could see her chest rising, just a little too fast. She was blinking more than normal, her lips parted like she wanted to speak, but her brain hadn't caught up yet. I didn't yell. I didn't need to. The silence was louder than any scream I could have mustered. I just looked at her and said, "Tell Canyon dinner was amazing. I even seasoned it with your betrayal." I swear, it hit her harder than I expected. Her eyes darted to the side like someone else might have heard it. But it was just the two of us. Me, standing at the edge of a ruined evening. Her, standing in the middle of a lie that could no longer hide behind half-hearted excuses and face-down screens. And for a few seconds, I felt powerful. Not because I caught her, but because I said it. Out loud. No more pretending. She slowly walked back to the table and sat down, her body moving like it weighed twice what it did 10 minutes earlier. I followed, not saying a word. She picked up her wine glass with trembling fingers and downed what was left of it, like liquid courage might fix what came next. Then she cleared her throat, wiped her mouth with the napkin, and finally whispered, "It's not what you think." I don't know why that line still pisses me off so much. It's the classic, cheap defense. It's what every guilty person pulls out when they're backed into a corner and their story has too many holes. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "Then explain it. Convince me that laughing in the hallway over text with a man named Canyon while I sat alone at a dinner I made for you is somehow not what I think it is." She opened her mouth, then closed it. She looked down, away, anywhere but at me. And then she made her next move, one I wasn't ready for. She started crying. Now, before you think I'm heartless, let me be clear. I've seen my wife cry before. During funerals, during movies, during a bad day at work. But never like this. This wasn't sadness. It was panic. It was the tears of someone who didn't regret what they did. They regretted being caught. She cried into her hands and said over and over, "I didn't mean for it to get this far. I didn't mean for it to be anything." I stared at her, my heart pounding. "How far is this far?" No answer. I asked again, this time slower. "How far did it go?" Still nothing. Just more sobbing. And it clicked. She wasn't crying because she didn't want to lose me. She was crying because she already lost the illusion. The illusion of being two people at once. The perfect wife who comes home to pasta and the reckless flirt who texts a man with a fake-sounding name during dinner. I stood up. I wasn't hungry anymore. My plate sat untouched, steam long gone, and something in my chest burned, like grief, but not for her. Grief for the man I used to be before I started apologizing for asking for honesty, for connection, for her time. As I walked toward the sink to dump my food, she said it. The sentence that would make this whole story even more twisted than I thought. I didn't even text him first. He reached out to me. I paused. My hands tightened around the plate, knuckles white, ceramic creaking. And you decided to keep it going because? And then, she looked up, finally, and she said something I can't get out of my head. Because he listens to me. It hit like a bullet I never saw coming. 12 years of marriage, wiped out with 5 words. Because he listens to me. As if I hadn't spent the last decade trying to listen, to understand, to show up. As if I hadn't rearranged my life just to make sure she never felt alone. And yet, somehow, I had been invisible, replaceable, background noise. She reached across the table, as if to touch my hand, but I stepped back. Don't, I said. My voice cracked. I felt like I was holding the last thread of my dignity together with both hands, and her touch might unravel it completely. There was a long silence. The kind of silence that doesn't fill a room, it swallows it whole. Then, I said quietly, you're going to tell me everything. Tonight. No lies. No half-truths. I want to know exactly who Canyon is, when this started, and what you're still hiding. And she hesitated. She actually hesitated. That was when I knew. There was so much more than a few texts and a hallway giggle. But I wasn't ready for what she told me next. Because it went way beyond flirting. And it involved a name I never expected to hear. She wiped her face with a napkin like it could erase the guilt she smeared across the night. Her fingers trembled as she tried to form words, like her mouth had forgotten how to speak when the lies were no longer rehearsed. I leaned on the back of the dining chair, gripping the wood like it was the only thing keeping me upright. Who is Canyon? I asked again, and this time my voice had none of the begging from before. I wasn't asking to understand her anymore. I was asking to expose her. She exhaled so slowly I could count the seconds between inhale and collapse. And then she whispered, his real name is Devin. The room didn't move, but something in me did. Devin. Why did that name sound so familiar? I stared at her, confused for a beat, until she continued, her eyes darting toward the kitchen window like the dark outside might swallow her before I could react. You remember Devin Marlin from the design firm? He used to work with you on the marketing crossover project 3 years ago. And that was it. Everything in my brain lit up at once. Devin. Tall, loud laugh. Designer jackets even on casual Fridays. He used to send me Spotify playlists when we worked late. A total smooth talker. Always had a new story about a client dinner that ended at some rooftop bar. He was charming. I never trusted him. But I never imagined this. You mean my coworker? I asked, slowly standing upright. The guy I introduced you to at the Christmas party? The one who shook my hand in our living room while I poured him a drink? She nodded. Barely. I felt like I was losing gravity. Like the house itself might float off its foundation and leave me behind. I walked into the kitchen and gripped the sink. Not for water. I just needed something cold, solid, real. I turned the faucet on full blast just to hear something other than the pounding in my head. Tell me how long. I said without looking back. Don't lie. Don't soften it. Just say the number. She hesitated, and when she answered, her voice was so small I almost missed it. 5 months. That number sounded impossible. We went to my niece's birthday in June. We spent the 4th at her parents' lake house. We had our anniversary. We bought new curtains. We laughed in the grocery store over frozen waffles. But apparently, none of it meant anything. And yet, here was the most twisted part. I wasn't even angry. Not in the screaming, throwing things, breaking glass way. I was hollow. Like all the rage had already leaked out, and I was just left standing in the aftershock of who I used to be. I turned off the faucet, walked back into the room, and looked at her. Did you sleep with him? I asked. I had to. I needed to hear it. I wanted her to say no so I could catch her in that lie too. She shook her head at first, then stopped, and nodded. Once. I sat down. Didn't speak for at least a full minute. My breath was shallow. I realized I was rubbing my thumb against my ring, not out of sentiment, but because part of me was already trying to imagine what my hand would look like without it. I can explain, she began, but I cut her off. No, I said flatly. You can't. You had 5 months to explain. You had every opportunity to tell me. But you didn't. You smiled. You kissed me goodnight. You watched me make you breakfast while you texted him. She dropped her head into her hands, but I didn't reach for her. This wasn't some misunderstanding. This wasn't a lapse in judgment. This was a double life. And I couldn't help but ask the question that was clawing its way out of me like an animal trying to survive. Do you love him? She didn't answer. That silence did more damage than any confession could have. That silence screamed, maybe. That silence begged not to be asked again. But I would ask again. Oh, I would. And next time, I'd be ready for the truth, no matter how much it shattered me. Because the next morning, I did something she never saw coming. And neither did Devin. I didn't go to bed that night. I didn't even lie down. While she curled up on the couch and wept into a throw blanket I bought last Christmas, I sat in the dining room, staring at the cold pasta, watching the candles burn out one by one. The silence between us was heavy, but not loud. It wasn't filled with screaming or slamming doors. It was the kind of silence that hums like electricity in the walls, the kind that follows a storm but comes before the real destruction. I wasn't thinking about revenge. Not yet. I was thinking about everything I had misunderstood. Every laugh she gave me that wasn't real. Every just tired, that probably meant just came from seeing Devin. I thought about how many nights I cooked for her while she texted him under the table. I thought about the 3 times I woke up alone in our bed, assuming she was in the bathroom, when she was probably on her phone, smiling in the dark. Around 3:20 a.m., I opened my laptop. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for at first. Proof? Closure? I didn't need it. She had already confessed. But something in me needed to see it. Needed to drag her lies into the light and stare them down. I opened our shared cloud account, the one we used for calendar syncing and travel photos. I knew she used it to back up media from her phone automatically. She forgot to turn that setting off. There were pictures, not graphic, not explicit, but damning all the same. A mirror selfie I didn't take. Her in a hotel room I'd never been in, holding a wine glass with 2 filled glasses on the table behind her. A beach photo, but we hadn't been to the beach in over a year. She was barefoot, laughing, with someone's shadow cast beside her. She had cropped the feet off, but I saw the second towel, the corner of his jacket. Then I found a screenshot. A message, saved intentionally, as if she wanted to keep it like a pressed flower inside a diary. It was from him. You're so much more alive when you're not pretending to be someone's wife. I stared at it for what felt like an hour. Not because it shocked me, but because of how familiar it sounded. That's what she had been doing all along. Pretending. Every time she looked at me like I was a burden. Every time I asked her how her day was, and she shrugged. Every time I begged her to tell me what was wrong, and she said, I'm just tired. I shut the laptop and made a decision. I wasn't going to confront Devin. I wasn't going to show up at his job or message him with some angry paragraph about betrayal. No, that would give him something. Power. Attention. Instead, I planned something different. Something that would make both of them realize they didn't just cheat on a man, they underestimated one. At 5:42 a.m., she came into the dining room, bleary-eyed, hair matted from the throw pillow, face puffy from crying. She didn't say good morning. She just asked, Did you sleep at all? I didn't answer. I just looked at her and said, We're going out tonight. She blinked. What? I made a reservation. 7:30, or something nice. She looked confused, worried, but she nodded. Okay. She thought it was forgiveness. She thought I was trying to fix things. She had no idea that I was walking her straight into a dinner she would never forget, a dinner where I wouldn't be the only one watching her. Because I sent an anonymous text that morning to a number I found in her contacts under the name Studio Supply. It was Devin's, and the message was simple. 7:30 p.m. Let's see how much she listens to you when I'm in the room. The trap was set. She wore the red dress I once told her made her look like fire in motion. She hadn't worn it in over a year, not for birthdays, anniversaries, or weddings. But tonight, she chose it. I couldn't tell if it was guilt, confusion, or some desperate attempt to reset the illusion. She didn't ask about the reservation again, didn't question why I suddenly wanted to go out after a night like the one before. Maybe part of her thought this was a last-ditch effort at reconciliation. Or maybe she thought I was too broken to see straight. But I was seeing everything. And tonight, I needed her to see it too. The restaurant was downtown. Not the fanciest, not the trendiest, but the one we used to go to when we had real conversations. The one where we once laughed so hard over lemon risotto that the table beside us complained. The maitre d' recognized me, smiled like nothing was wrong. I had reserved a table for 3, but I told them we'd be seated as 2 and the third would join later. She didn't notice. She was too busy scanning the menu, nervously sipping from her water like it might buy her time to understand why I was being so calm. "I'm surprised," she finally said. "After everything, I thought you'd be angry, distant." I said quietly. But then I realized something. Anger is useless when you're dealing with people who've already decided you're not real. She blinked. "What does that mean?" I leaned in, elbows on the table. "It means I know. All of it. The hotel in March. The weekend you said you were with Heather in Santa Cruz. The photos. The messages. The man who listens to you." Her mouth dropped open. Just slightly. Not enough to look dramatic. Just enough to confirm guilt. She hadn't expected that much detail. "Eli, please," she started, but I raised a hand. "I'm not here to yell," I said. "I'm here to give you a choice." She looked around like she was checking to see if anyone was watching us. But no one cared. Just another couple with tension over dinner. "You can tell me the full story," I continued. "Or you can sit here in silence until someone else arrives. Either way, we're both going to know exactly who you are by the time dessert is served." She paled. Her breath caught. "Who else is coming?" I smiled. "Someone who's had a taste of the same story, just from a different angle." She stared at me for a long time, like she was trying to decode the layers in my voice. Then she whispered, "You invited him?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She stood up, quick, sharp, her chair screeching against the floor. She clutched her purse like it was the only thing she could still control. "I'm not doing this. I'm not playing games with you, Eli." "No," I said calmly. "You already did. For 5 months. This is the part where I stopped playing along." She sat back down. Slowly. Her hands shook. She was scanning the door now, eyes flicking to every man that walked by, her anxiety growing with each passing second. She had never looked so exposed, so vulnerable. 10 minutes passed, then 15, and then, right on cue, he walked in. Devin. Same cocky stride, same smug expression. But when he saw me at the table, he stopped, froze. He hadn't expected me to be there. His confidence cracked just enough for me to see the man underneath. Not the smooth talker who stole someone else's wife, but the coward who never expected consequences. Karina looked at him, then at me, and for the first time in a long time, she looked truly afraid. "I didn't tell him to come," she said quickly, voice trembling. "I didn't know." "Save it," I said. "I sent the message." Devin approached cautiously. "Eli, look, I didn't know you knew." You thought I'd stay dumb forever," I said. "You thought you could keep seeing her, laughing behind my back, and I'd just fade out like some irrelevant side character." He glanced at her. She wasn't looking at either of us now. She was staring into her lap, like a kid caught cheating on a test and too ashamed to lift their head. The waiter came by, oblivious. "Will your guest be ordering?" "No," I said. "He's just here for the truth." And then I did something no one expected. I pulled out a small black envelope from my jacket and placed it between them. Inside is a list. Dates, messages, screenshots, locations, everything you both lied about. You can keep it. I've already sent copies elsewhere." Karina looked like she might faint. Devin didn't even reach for it. "This isn't a threat," I said. "It's a reminder. You broke something that can't be glued back together. So don't pretend this is salvageable." Then I stood up, buttoned my coat, and looked down at the two of them. Lovers turned statues. "Dinner's on me. Guilt has a price. And tonight, you both get to taste it." I walked out without turning back. But what I didn't know yet, what I couldn't have predicted, was that the fallout wasn't over. Because when I got home, the real surprise was waiting for me in the form of a voicemail. The night air felt heavier than it should have. I remember walking back to my car, hands still trembling slightly from adrenaline, the weight of what I'd just done pressing against my chest like a stack of bricks. I didn't know how I felt. Not victorious. Not even vindicated. Just emptied out. Like I'd poured everything I had into that table, and all I had left was the echo of their faces. His frozen smirk cracking into confusion, her mascara smudged panic. And yet, there was no sense of closure. Just this uneasy silence following me all the way home. I didn't rush back. I let the drive stretch longer than it needed to, making unnecessary turns through neighborhoods I'd never lived in, watching other people's houses light up with warm kitchen windows and muffled laughter inside. And for a minute, I caught myself wondering, did they know how lucky they were? Or were they also sitting on landmines, waiting for a phone to buzz and unravel their whole world? When I finally got home, the house was still. My phone had died sometime during the drive, so I plugged it in absent-mindedly and sat down on the edge of the couch, unsure of what to do next. The kitchen still smelled faintly of last night's dinner. Her glass of wine from earlier, untouched and warm, sat on the counter like a ghost. Everything felt familiar and foreign at the same time. I was just about to get up and take a shower when my phone dinged back to life, notifications pouring in all at once. Emails, a couple of texts from coworkers, and then one voicemail. No caller ID, just a timestamp from 42 minutes ago, right around the time I had been watching Devin and Karina squirm in silence across the table. I hesitated. Something about it made my skin crawl. I hit play. At first, it was quiet. Just background noise, a car engine, maybe, then a breath, then a voice. But not hers. It was Devin. Hey, it's me. Listen, I didn't think he'd go that far. I thought you said he didn't know anything. I wouldn't have shown up if I knew he'd be there, all right? But now he knows, and he's not going to stay quiet. I told you we needed to slow things down, but you couldn't stop. And if this comes back on me, Karina, I swear. The message cut off. I replayed it 3 times. Same words, same tone, same panic. But something about it didn't sit right. He wasn't angry about being exposed. He was scared, not of me, but of what might happen next. Because apparently, this wasn't part of their plan. And that's when a much darker question entered my mind. One that made the hairs on my arms stand up. What exactly had they planned? I opened my laptop again. I went through everything, old texts, emails, calendar invites. I wasn't looking for romantic messages now. I was looking for patterns, clues, things I had ignored before because I had trusted too much and asked too little. And then I found it. A transfer from our shared bank account. Small but strange. A recurring payment labeled SDRC Investments that started 3 months ago. I never approved that. We never discussed investing. But she had access. She could move money without alerts if it was under the threshold. I clicked deeper. SDRC was an abbreviation, a holding account, and it was linked to his name, Devin. She had been funneling small amounts of our savings, enough to go unnoticed, into his project. And that project wasn't just a business venture. It was a relocation fund. 2 tickets. Booked. Non-refundable. To Portugal. My name wasn't on either of them. My chest tightened. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was preparing to vanish with him. And now that I had exposed them both, what if I had ruined their escape? What if the dinner wasn't just humiliating? It was a wedge I'd driven into something far more dangerous than an affair. I got up and checked the front door. Locked. Then the back. Then every window. I didn't know why I was doing it. I just knew that if Karina came home tonight, I needed to be awake. Because something told me this story wasn't over. Not even close. It was just after 11 p.m. when the sound came, 3 short knocks. Not loud, not rushed. Just deliberate. Like whoever was on the other side wanted me to feel them before I heard them. I hadn't moved from the living room since playing that voicemail. I had kept every light off, sitting in near darkness with only the faint blue glow from the TV screen savor bouncing shadows off the walls. I wasn't watching anything. I was just waiting. And now, the wait was over. I didn't go straight to the door. I stood up slowly, heart punching at my ribs, and looked through the peephole without breathing. It was her. Karina. Hair tied back. No makeup. Not the red dress from dinner. Just a gray hoodie I hadn't seen in months, like she'd changed into a different version of herself entirely before coming here. She looked defeated, but not fragile, like someone who'd made a decision and was ready to explain it, even if it killed her. I opened the door, but said nothing. She stepped in like she still had a right to, brushing past me like she was entitled to the silence, like she owned the hallway air between us. I shut the door and followed her into the living room. She sat on the edge of the couch, the same spot where I'd been frozen earlier, and folded her hands like she was in a courtroom. She didn't say hi. She didn't ask how I was. She went straight for it. I need you to understand something, Eli, she said. None of this started because I wanted it to. I sat down across from her, careful not to lean forward. You planned to move overseas with him. She blinked, but no surprise this time. She had come here prepared. I didn't plan it. He did. Devin thought we needed a clean slate. I never agreed to go. You booked the tickets, I said. My voice was too even. It didn't even sound like mine. With my money. I moved our money, she corrected, too quickly. It wasn't stealing. It wasn't yours, I said, sharper now. You were leaving me. You don't get to take part of me with you. She looked down, ashamed for half a second. Then her voice changed, steadier, colder. He was manipulating me, Eli. He kept promising things, pushing the timeline forward. He said if we waited, I'd back out. That he had done this before, that people always get scared and ruin it. I swallowed hard. And did you want it? Any of it? Silence. Her eyes darted to the side. And that was my answer. I stood up. You didn't come back here to apologize. You came to justify. She stood too, but slowly. No, I came to stop what's coming. That froze me. What do you mean? She pulled out her phone and unlocked it. Her hands were shaking again, just like they were the night I caught her smiling into the screen. She tapped through messages until she found one and held it out to me. It was from Devin. If your husband keeps pushing this, I swear I'm not going down alone. I'll drag him into this mess too. I stared at it, reading it 3 times over. What mess? I asked, confused. What is he talking about? She looked genuinely scared now. Devin lied to you, Eli. That holding account wasn't just for moving money. It's dirty. He's been using it to shuffle funds for 2 other clients, illegally. And when I realized, I threatened to back out. That's when he told me. He had a backup plan. A silence hung in the air, thick and growing heavier by the second. She swallowed hard. He said if I ever turned on him, he'd send fabricated texts to make it look like you were involved. Like you helped him cover it up during your marketing project together. He has a paper trail. Emails. Timelines. My knees nearly gave out. You're telling me this now? I didn't know he'd actually do it, she said, pacing now. I thought he was bluffing. But after tonight, when he showed up and realized you'd set us both up, he lost it. He said he'd already sent the first batch of emails to one of his contacts. That if anything happened to his reputation, he'd ruin yours first. I backed away slowly, processing every word. My heart was beating too fast to keep up with my thoughts. You let me go to that dinner, I said. You watched me humiliate both of you, and said nothing? I didn't think he'd react this way. I thought it would end it. I thought if he saw me exposed like that, he'd just walk away. I laughed bitterly. You don't know him. You never did. And now neither of us know what he's capable of. She sat back down, head in her hands. I screwed up. I know that. I destroyed us. But if he brings you into this, Eli, you could lose everything. Your job, your name, your future. I looked down at her. The woman who betrayed me. Who emptied our account behind my back. Who was going to disappear like I was disposable. And now she was asking me to help her stop the man she chose over me. But there was something she didn't know. I'd already made a call of my own, right after I got that voicemail. Not to Devin. Not to her parents. To someone who owed me a favor. The moment I ended the call with Owen, I felt the tide turn. He wasn't just an old friend. He was a compliance analyst for a firm that specialized in uncovering internal fraud and laundering. We hadn't spoken in over a year, but when I told him everything, the false investment account, the redirected funds, the connections to Devin's shell companies, his voice dropped to a low, measured hum. Send me what you have, he said. Quietly. Don't alert them. If this checks out, you'll hear back by Monday. It was Thursday night when Karina showed me Devin's threat. By Friday morning, I had sent Owen over 60 pages of evidence. Screenshots, transactions, call logs, even that voicemail. I didn't tell Karina. I didn't need her permission anymore. I needed closure, and now I could taste it. The weekend passed like slow thunder, distant but looming. Karina stayed in the guest room. She didn't try to talk. I didn't invite her to. She cooked breakfast one morning. I didn't eat it. She cried softly behind the bathroom door on Saturday night. I didn't ask if she was okay. For the first time in 12 years, I wasn't trying to fix what she broke. I was letting it fall. On Monday, I got the call. Eli. Owen said, his voice sharp and tight with energy. We cross-checked everything. Not only is Devin funneling money through multiple fake accounts, he's using your company's brand assets to do it. Without authorization. It's not just fraud. It's federal. And you're clean. Your name's on nothing. Because you were the mark. He used your past connection as the decoy to make it all look legitimate. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just breathed. For the first time in weeks, deeply, fully. And for the first time in months, I knew who I was again. By Tuesday, Devin had been suspended pending full investigation. By Thursday, his accounts were frozen. And by Friday, I was sitting in an HR office at my own job, not being fired, but thanked for helping expose something that had quietly been poisoning their brand from the inside. And Karina? She left that weekend. No drama. No begging. Just 2 suitcases and a note that read, "I need to figure out who I am without hiding behind someone like you." I laughed when I read it. Not because it was cruel, but because, for once, it was honest. She was right. She had been hiding. And I was done dimming myself so someone else could feel comfortable. It's been 5 months since that final dinner. Devin is still under investigation. Karina is, last I heard, staying with a cousin in Nevada. And me? I moved into a new place with real windows, real light, and a kitchen I still cook in. Just not for people who lie with their mouths full. I joined a community volleyball league. I started therapy. I started journaling again. And no, this isn't a rom-com where I magically met someone new who healed everything. This is real life, where healing comes from within, not from a rebound. I'm not who I was. I'm stronger, sharper. And now I know. Sometimes, the worst betrayal can lead you to the most honest version of yourself. Studio Microphone, thanks for listening to this story on Reddit Confessions. If you made it this far, I want to hear from you. What moment in this story shocked you the most? Was it the dinner setup? The voicemail? The final twist? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And remember, even if someone writes you out of their story, you still get to write the ending. See you in the next confession.